Hi and hello, and thank you for joining us today. We are having a wonderful day. Today is our Minority Health Summit. If you didn't know, if you haven't heard by now, April is Minority Health Month, and we have decided here at blackdoctor.org, we decided we're going to put on a Minority Health Summit celebrating minority health. And we're today we have gone through. We've got 5 panels on a multitude of topics that are all about minority health and how can we be healthier. So earlier today, the first panel, we kicked it off with a panel on colorectal cancer and had some wonderful discussions on how you can test for pre-test for colorectal cancer outside of a colonoscopy. And so I'm not even going to give that away because you got to watch the panel. So go back and watch that, not now, but go back and watch that panel. And then we talked about diabetes and the unseen consequences of diabetes. And that panel was, oh my God, we could have gone for 2 hours on that particular panel. We talked about chronic kidney disease and unnecessary amputations and PAD and diabetic retinopathy and diabetic neuropathy and all of those things and how impactful. And we had a patient kind of talking about her experience with chronic kidney disease. It was so wonderful. And then we just ended a panel talking about the future of medicine. And future medicine includes clinical trials and how Black and brown people can improve our health outcomes by participating in clinical trials. And so, and a little bit of genetic testing. We touched a little bit on genetic testing, but really about how clinical trials are an important component to improving overall health outcomes. And now here we are to probably one of my favorite topics, and because I've got the reason why this is one of my favorite topics, because this is where you can have control over your health outcomes. This is where, and matter of fact, this is where you have the most control over your health outcomes. It's about what you put into your body, what you eat every day. Because you might go see your doctor for 10 or 12 minutes, but you eat every day. Most people eat every day, unless you're fasting or doing something like that. Most people eat every day. And what you put into your body, it has more of a determinant of your health and the length of your life than anything your doctor can say or do. So you are driving the car of your health outcomes, and that's why this particular panel is crucial for you and your health. So before we get to our wonderful panelists, and so as you know them, they are wonderful, wonderful people, and they are going to give you some great information. Before we get to our panelists, we're going to play a short video to talk about what your body needs in order to prolong your life.
Essential nutrients are components in food that your body can't make on its own and that we need to grow, function, and stay healthy. So we must get these nutrients through our diets. There are 6 classes of essential nutrients. Carbohydrates are the main source of calories or energy in the diet. Fats also give us energy and help with normal growth and development, immune function, vitamin absorption, hormone production, and more. Proteins and the amino acids they are made of are major structural components of our body's cells and are responsible for building and repair of tissues and maintenance of muscle and lean body mass. There are 13 essential vitamins which have important jobs such as keeping our nerves healthy, helping us resist infection, assisting with blood clotting, and keeping our metabolism running. Minerals are only needed in small amounts but play a vital role in muscle contraction, fluid balance, food digestion, bone building, blood pressure regulation, and more. Water is also an essential nutrient that delivers other nutrients to cells, regulates the body temperature, acts as a shock absorber and lubricant, and helps in the removal of waste from the body. Bioactive compounds are not considered essential because they haven't been shown to lead to deficiencies if they're missing in the diet. However, they may positively impact health. Bioactives are a big part of nutrition research as scientists are trying to better understand and unlock their potential health benefits. Bioactives that you have likely heard of are carotenoids. These colorful plant pigments found in bright red, yellow, and orange fruits and vegetables act as powerful antioxidants and may help prevent some types of cancer and heart disease, reduce the risk of eye disease, enhance the immune system, and more. Resveratrol is another bioactive found in the skin of grapes, blueberries, raspberries, and mulberries that may reduce the risk of heart disease. Flavonols are a part of the flavonoid family that are found in tea, red wine, and cocoa and may positively influence our cardiovascular health. Phytosterols are steroid compounds in plants that may lower cholesterol and improve cardiovascular health. Phytoestrogens, found in many plants including soy and other legumes, are also being studied for their potential in reducing the risk of breast cancer. Healthy eating is important at every age, but the amount of nutrients we need and our body's ability to process them can change over time and depend on your personal health status. As you age, you may need more vitamin D and calcium for bone health, more B12 for brain and blood health, and more fiber for a healthy digestive system. Some people may also need more water as their sense of thirst declines. Your medical conditions or the medications you take may also require you to adjust your diet. It's important to talk with your healthcare team when deciding the best nutrition plan for you, but most people can get the healthy nutrients they need from a well-rounded diet of nutrients.
Okay, so and we are back. It stopped, but I think we got the gist of it. They were going a little bit deeper than what we wanted to go to, so we're going to move into talking to our special guest here. So first up, we have Dr. Yolanda Lewis Ragland. She is a certified double board certified pediatrician and bariatrician, which means bariatrician. They deal with obesity, and she also has a show called Mind, Body, and Stress here on Black Doctor, and that's on the first Friday of every month. So our show will be coming up this Friday, so we're really looking forward to that program. So we're going to welcome Dr. Yolanda Lewis Ragland to the program. And then also we have a returning friend of the show. If you don't remember, she used to do a show called You, Your Body, Your Health right here on blackdoctor.org. It was on every Friday at 12 p.m. It was one of our more popular shows. She is Dr. Nina Cherie Franklin. She does some of everything. I can't even list all of the certifications she has, but she does some of everything. But you all know her. So welcome to the program, Dr. Nina. Thank you both for and engaging in this wonderful conversation.
Absolutely.
Thank you for being here. I'm happy to be here.
Me too.
Okay. So this first question, I'm gonna throw out to both of you. So there's been of recent, there's this rise in the popularity of people talking about eating healthy, right? So that's kind of been it's becoming in vogue now, I guess maybe so to speak. Why do you think there has been that rise in the promotion of healthy eating versus maybe the way things were before, where we were kind of just getting bombarded with fast foods and snacks and things like that?
So I don't know if you want to start with this. I know that, for the most part, we've had to just recognize that there's a rise in obesity. How about that? So there's been a rise in obesity, a rise in, chronic illnesses and things that are related to obesity. And it's really affecting not just our personal lives, but it's beginning to affect our professional lives. We lose a lot of work days when it comes to dealing with obesity, heart disease, things that are connected to cholesterol, not being able to move. And so it's, finally it's hitting the pockets, I think, of our employers as much as it's affecting the employees. And so I think that America has finally said, we probably have to do some preventive medicine. We probably have to start looking at ways to improve the system overall. And I don't think that that COVID did not have a huge effect as well. People were sitting at home and recognizing that if you're not healthy, if you're not going to eat right and be able to sustain yourself and your family, then you won't be here. And that's exactly what happened to some folks. And so I think that there are a lot of things in play. I'm just happy to see it. Those of us who've been working in nutrition all this time are finally being asked, our opinions and wanting to get this information out there. But it's almost like it had to hit home for people to start recognizing that maybe they need to actually listen to some of this information that's been out here.
Dr. Nina, I'm going to ask you the question in a different way, because you've been banging the drum. You've been that salad lady for a long time, right? So you've been banging this drum for healthy eating, and sometimes you were yelling in the room by yourself, just trying to pay attention. And now you're starting to see more traction from your videos. You're starting to see more traction for some of the things that you've been saying. What do you attribute that uptick to?
You know what? A few things. First of all, Dr. Yolanda, I said, I'm on here with her. She's going to bullet everything I want to say. So I knew it was coming. I have nothing to say. So I'm glad you switched the question, because I have nothing to say after that. She said everything I would have said. But I will say that one of the things, unfortunately, when it comes, unfortunately, but fortunately, but we have such a vanity-driven society that's probably the one thing that Dr. Yolanda didn't mention. What I see a lot is people just really looking at the vanity aspects associated with healthy eating. And that's a lot of what's going on social media. I remember being on your panel when we were talking about, really body image issues in social media. Right. That's what's driving a lot of the extra, traffic and traction on social media when it comes to healthy eating. That, not only does eating this way help us look good and feel good, but feel good and, prevent disease. But it just so happens that I'm looking a lot different. I'm looking a lot different by eating this way. So I'm all for whatever makes you change your habits, whatever keeps those habits sustainable. And if being, a hot 50 mom is what's keeping those habits sustainable, I am all for that. So definitely from my end, I'm seeing a lot of the, physical aspects associated with healthy eating, but as well as those aspects that Dr. Yolanda touched on about preventing disease. And really, I was going to drive home the point of COVID, that last point that was brought up by Dr. Yolanda. I think a lot of people have realized that we've been kicking the can too long. So we've kicked the can and said, we're gonna, don't worry about it. There's a diabetes occurrence going on in the Black community, but whatever. But now all of a sudden it's costing, especially with COVID. Now all of a sudden, all of these consequences of poor eating habits and a lack of physical activity, might I add, are actually leading to more negative consequences when it comes to this disease that we're still living with right now.
That's a good point. That's a good point. You talked about how those people, all that time. That's a good way analogy. You're saying we kicked it down, we kicked the can down the field, and we had more obesity, we had more hypertension, we had more diabetes, and then we have this disease that drops on us, this pandemic that drops on us, that exacerbates those illnesses that we've just been dealing with and living with, and not really taking care of. And now COVID interacts with it, and that results in higher rates of death as a result.
Exactly.
And so but I definitely think so. Dr. Yolanda, what do you think about the whole vanity aspect in terms of why healthy eating is?
No, I think it's true. And so here's the deal, because as a pediatrician, this is something I am dealing with, right? Social media itself is driving a lot of things, not just the conversation about obesity, but obviously the conversation about mental health and self-image and how our young people are seeing themselves. And so I think social media now plays a huge role. Just about anything that we talk about, we'd be silly to believe it doesn't. And so definitely the vanity part of it, which I guess like Dr. Nina said, for me, anything that does it, I'm fine with, because we just have to have this conversation. What I do appreciate about it is that the vanity piece is where we have to recognize you also have to have some self-esteem to consider vanity being the positive for you, right? Because sometimes there's some people who that's not enough for them because they don't have the self-esteem that they need. And so we have to make sure that we're recognizing that there's also the healthy idea of what should you look like, and is it even possible? Yes, it is. And these are the ways it can be. And so that's why, I appreciate definitely how vanity plays a role.
So speaking to the healthy aspect, right? Okay, so we don't understand that social media is driving. It's such a visual medium. Like we're here on this visual medium. It's so visual, and people are putting all these pictures and like, I want to look like the picture. And so, well, here's a way to get to look like the picture. But let's talk about the healthy side, right? So in terms of, I think the model, and this is more of a question than a statement, is the model of medicine and healthcare being reversed. And what I mean by that is, so often we said, I feel sick, that's when I go to the doctor. Now you're saying, I don't want to go see the doctor. So what do I need to do in order to not have to go to the doctor? And eating
Yeah.
healthy is a key component in that.
I'm going to jump in here. Oh, you want to go?
No.
Okay. I'm going to jump in here because I actually published a paper on this back in 2017 with another physician, and one of the big things is there is a paradigm shift. This is a research proven paradigm shift where a lot of people are looking at the importance in taking control of their own health. You mentioned earlier when you started. We see this actually was published in the paper we had, but 10% of behavior change is really triggered by doctor's visits. Why? Because we don't see doctors a lot. We usually go when something is wrong. We usually go when we're getting a checkup, but our behavioral change is largely in our control, and that's where the most control happens when it comes to changing your health profile, about 40 to 50% to be exact. So you have this paradigm shift, even as Dr. Yolanda alluded to, whereas it's not just us preventative professionals coming on and saying it anymore. Now it is those third-party payers. Now it's even the medical system realizing how little control they don't have over the situation and how much it's costing the whole system overall. So what's happening now is it's moving out of the clinic and into the environment. It's moving into the community. It's moving into the churches. You'll notice even there are a lot of clinical trials going on right now and research in general where, pastors are being, pulled in to kind of, run these community-based studies to get their parishioners to eat healthy or do better. And so it's definitely a shift that's occurring in a positive way because it's more realistic and relevant to the world in which we live. We control our own behaviors. This is the way it should have been in the first place. And I think one of the things that is so promising, and it was so refreshing when I met Dr. Yolanda, because there was a time, I come from an academic background. There was a time where I would talk to physicians and it was like talking to a brick wall. I mean, if you recall, there were times when physicians would be outside smoking cigarettes and telling us what not to do. So it's a very refreshing situation to have physicians who are now openly working with preventative health professionals that are outside of the medical setting, because that's the kind of community and the kind of collaboration that it's going to take to actually make real change.
And what I'll say is that, one of the things is also taking place is that medicine itself is evolving. So the problem, one of the things that I appreciate about my own experience and my own background is that I have both Western medicine and other medicines. We say Eastern, you mean one particular thing, but I've studied in Africa, I've studied in Asia, I've studied, in other places, as well as Western medicine, which is here in America. And we're still young. I think that's part of the problem. People don't really look at the historical aspect of us being 400.
Oh no.
Oh yeah. She's experiencing some.
Oh, I was ready for this.
Yeah, I was getting into
it. How long this has been? I'm sorry, am I back?
Yeah, you're back.
Am I back yet? Okay.
I was just about to pop some popcorn because you was going in.
Me too.
Let me say it fast. I'm at a hotel in New Jersey. This might not get out here. They might not want me to say it. I'm saying, but I think that we are just a young country, which and that means that our everything that we're doing is still pretty young, which means our medical profession is young. And the problem is we actually started on the backs of medicine, being that we began learning we began learning what is your diagnosis and how do we treat, but we were only thinking, how do we treat medically? So we came in tandem with pharmaceutical companies, with pharmacology, unfortunately. And, fortunate as it is that we can treat certain things, the problem is we didn't start our idea of medicine like many of the traditional ancient, civilizations, where it was food is medicine. You understood how herbs played into digestive aids, increasing your metabolism, helping you to deal with blood clot. There's so much you can do with food, but that isn't how we began our medical professional understanding of how we treat each other or how we treat our bodies. And
Right.
so we're now coming to the realization that, oh wait, we left out thousands of years of information that we needed to sort of marry with the understanding of what medicine is. And so integrative medicine, which is something that I particularly practice with Western medicine, has finally become understood as critical, crucial, and it's this fundamental idea of medicine versus, again, I think we were accidentally calling it just alternative. And by just alternative medicine, it was, I could take it or leave it. But it isn't alternative to understand about nutrition, to understand about stress, to understand. These are the things that are actually going to prolong our lives. Medicine, you're going to need every once in a while. And I hope you only need it when something happens. But if we take care of ourselves the right way, it may not happen that you'll need these medicines. And so I think it was just short-sighted on our part at the time, but I think we're finally recognizing that we have to incorporate things that have been going on for thousands of years in other civilizations and give it the respect that it deserves, and now teach it in mass, not on the in the fringes, right? We have to actually incorporate it to the actual meat of the medicine.
So, Dr. Lehman, you had this wonderful concept that I still, use today, but I do give you credit for it. That is called the health span, right? Help our audience understand what the health span is and why is it important when it comes to how we eat and what we put into our bodies.
So oftentimes it's really my favorite concept. My very first publication was entitled, it was in Journal of Lifestyle, Successful Aging. And so it was really all about different studies, a compilation of different studies that really suggest what is successful aging, what does it mean to age successfully. And, after really doing an exhaustive review of the literature, it really came down to this concept of health span. And really, you have lifespan. That's the number of years we're alive. It's predetermined. It could be short. It could be long, depending on external factors, not just the factors inside of us. But, regardless of the fact, we have a life. It's going to be a certain length. And health span is a matter of how many years are we actually, quote unquote, healthy within that number of years that we're alive. It's a very, very simple concept. And healthy in many ways could be relative. And I say that because I always use the Big Mama analogy when I talk about it. For Big Mama, oftentimes it wasn't necessarily healthy eating. If you think about what Big Mama was cooking, it wasn't healthy eating a lot, but it was a mental health aspect in there. It was a social aspect. Big Mama liked to have people around her. Big Mama liked social gatherings. That's what fueled her. And as soon as you put Big Mama in that hospital or that home, Big Mama usually died. And this is because for her, a health span was largely determined by that social aspect, that connectedness to her family. When it comes to healthy eating, when it comes to health span in general, you have that mental component, you have the physical component. There are many other components, but those two are probably the most powerful because there is a lot of interaction between stress, as I talked about a lot on the show, with stress and the way we eat. So much so that you can actually counteract a lot of your efforts to eat well by the process of stress that's going on in your body. That's a whole nother subject, but it's just important to know within the context of health span, there are those factors that play a role. And if you look at it from the standpoint of your lifespan, you can improve your health span at any point in your lifespan. So a lot of times we think, we're getting older, it's too late. But if you think about the length of your life, anything you do in between can improve your health span. Obviously, the earlier you do it, the more you affect that curve, but there can always be change. And that's the most important thing to understand with healthy eating. Even if you get to the point that you have a diagnosis, you can still change. You can still shift that health span curve, even in the presence of a disease that you may think is devastating.
Well, actually, that's when most people do the most work, right?
This is true. This is true.
Diabetic. It's so true. Some people become pre-diabetic or they hit a certain weight, and
that's
all
right.
of a sudden that mindset says, you know, this isn't even who I am. This is not, this doesn't have to end here. And I've seen people lose upwards of 100 pounds, right?
That's right.
In a year and a half, but they've gained that weight over 30 years. You know, they've been gaining it slowly over 30 years, but all of a sudden you finally get in your head that you're pre-diabetic, that your heart, you know, can't take this particular amount of pressure that you have on it. There's all these things that come to play, and then you finally go, light bulb on. I have to take control of this. And so then that health span is, you know, I'm now listening, and obviously it's going to be something that I'm going to figure out how to we'll all be saying Dr. Nina said, but you know, that all of a sudden that health span that you can now start to incorporate so many things, and it's simple stuff. That's what's great about this, right? It's how you eat, it's what you eat, it's when you eat. But guess what? It's all you're doing it. That's what I love.
That's right.
You're 100% in control of what you eat, when you eat, and when you eat it. And then on top of that, yes, there's the exercise and getting in there. But guess what? That's not even the most important part. Studies have shown, it's proven, it is mostly your diet. So if it's 85% of your diet, then you have 85% of control over what can happen starting today. And that's what I love about these conversations. And I love it because if you get this information in early enough, your health span and your lifespan can actually be in tandem, right? That's what I'm here for as a pediatrician, talking about obesity and just understanding how it impacts, you know, a child who's obese, the kinds of things that I have to deal with in terms of their health conditions are what most adults are dealing with, right? So I've had to learn more about heart disease and diabetes and arthritis and things that usually you don't have to do these things until an adult doctor. 45, 50-year-old patients are coming in. But if this child is obese, I'm already having to have these conversations about the amount of strain they have on their little hearts. Their hearts can't take it. Their hearts aren't ready for that. The strain that's on their bones. The ways that they may not grow. They have growth abnormalities, all these types of things because of the amount of pressure that's on them from the weight. So if we can talk about this early, and if we can get parents to understand, it's not just a cute little chubby kid that you're raising.
That's right.
It's a child who has heart pressure, who has pressure on their heart, added pressure on their heart, added pressure on their kidneys, added pressure on their pancreas, like when you begin to understand it that way, then you'll make some changes to actually improve both their health and their lifespan.
So that helps us. And those of you, if you're just joining us, we're talking about how healthy eating can prolong your life with healthy eating. And so that's a great segue. So we're talking about how do we, Dr. Nina, how do we get that messaging out outside of the vanity piece when we talk about outside of the intervention? Okay, I'm obese, my BMI is out of whack, and I've got all these medical conditions, so now I have to start losing weight, otherwise I'm going to cut my lifespan very quickly, and life and health span is going to go down. How do we get that education earlier so people don't start on that path of self-destruction and then have to reroute, where we can put them on the path of eating fruits and vegetables and normally in their life early on? How do we get our kids on that path?
There are a few ways, and as usual, Dr. Yolanda had a wonderful segue going into this. One of the things that she really emphasized a lot was how the role of the parents, right? The parents play a huge role in this, and this is you're speaking of someone right now who was this obese young lady. I was actually 75 pounds overweight. And I had the stereotypical, family that that would result in these lifestyle behaviors. I lived in poverty, south side of Chicago, food desert. All of those boxes were checked. But the role, when my mother was diagnosed with diabetes, same story. Now things have to change. she wanted us to change together. And that is really what initiated my lifestyle change, my mother, because my mother actually took the lead and we changed our habits together. I use that word habit strategically,
Right.
because you could easily argue that with across the Black population that our culture, our environment, our economic factors, social factors, you could say all of this, influences our lifestyle choices. You really can. You can say that we can't help ourselves, that, some things are just set up so we fail. But I totally disagree with this within the context of healthy eating. And it has a lot to do with where I came up, but also understanding the role of the habits in this equation. That's what we have to target, because it is habits that we have formed. And if you don't believe me, look at some of the research that shows that there's actually a wonderful, interesting study where they actually priced, the researchers actually priced all of the healthy foods much lower than the unhealthy foods. And people were given vouchers to eat, and they still chose the unhealthy foods, even though they had to pay more for them. Because these are habits that are ingrained within us. And when it comes to children, a lot of these habits start with the environments in which they grow up. I sat on a wellness committee when my oldest son first started school. I was asked to, join this wellness committee of different parents and professionals. So I was a parent and a professional. And I actually had a reputation as being the mother who took the sweets away from the kids, because we actually set up what we called a safe snack list. It wasn't even a healthy snack list, but it was a safe snack list that didn't include a lot of sugar. It didn't include, different allergens, common allergens. And what we found was it was not the kids that were protesting. It was the parents that were protesting. So they would say, why can't we bring cupcakes to school? Why can't we bring cakes to school? And it really, because what I did is I pride myself on being creative with some of the ways in which I introduce healthy foods into the kids' diet. That's how I got the name That Salad Lady. The kids gave it to me, because I used to make different foods that they could eat and enjoy, and they were actually healthy foods. It was the parents that gave the most resistance to the whole process.
Okay, so I'm jumping in. Because again, now she said I was trying all over her. That she's trying to explain, but this is good. I love having this conversation with her, because we actually do think alike and have had these very unique, very common experiences. But it is a lot of times it's the parents, and here's one of the reasons why. These habits that we formed are often connected to addictions. We don't have this conversation. We very rarely talk about what we're addicted to, and they even recognize it as an addiction, because that's such a bad word, right? So no one wants to say they're addicted to sugar. No one wants to say they're addicted to, salt or hot Takis or whatever we're going to put out there. Right? What happens? People have these addictions, and they're nostalgic, and they bring these memories back.
That's right.
So here I am. And I'm telling you what I know. So as a pediatrician, often parents will come to me. They will have just had a child, and I will talk about the first foods that you want to feed your baby. Your baby. This child has it's a clean slate. They have They have no idea what you're going to give them. Just this is their food list. I will start to talk about how I want them to introduce vegetables first, not fruit. Everybody wants to start with the bananas.
That's right.
Right? Sweet thing. And it's so fun. And the kid lights up their face, but they're getting started on sugar and addicted right away. And then you wonder why, when you try to give them vegetables after that, they won't eat them.
They spit it out.
Right. They spit them out. It tastes bitter. But when you first eat vegetables, which are carbohydrates, they have sugars in them. They have a sweet taste. It's a very hint of sweet. So I'll tell them to start them on squash and carrots and green peas. But my whole point is, as soon as I start to talk about these things, the faces of the parents are just confused.
I knew you were going to say that.
What's wrong? And I don't like squash. I didn't ask you to.
That's right.
You asked me as the professional how to start your child on food, and I'm trying to give you that information. And you're basing what you're going to give your child on your own preferences.
That's right.
What you like, and that's where the problem is. And so many times our
Mm.
parents will want to give kids the stuff they grew up on. Hostess,
That's
ho-ho, the
right.
stuff that we didn't know anything, we didn't know better, right?
Yeah.
Twinkies and ho-hos and hostess. My mother didn't know any better. Now, my kids didn't grow up on that
Yes.
stuff because I learned what to do, what not to do. And now they'll hopefully will never have that sort of a chain reaction that they're going to have to break. But that's part of these habits. These habits are a lot of times based on these addictions, and because we don't really talk about it, and I'm just going to be really honest here, I think a lot of physicians and medical professionals don't talk about it because they have them themselves. And so,
Mm.
sometimes you don't have conversations about obesity or weight with some physicians because they don't bring it up because they're overweight or they're struggling themselves. So I've had families that say they barely even get that conversation from their regular doctor. They only really get it from the specialist doctor. We don't have that kind of time. Children are not going to see specialists. They're going to see pediatricians.
That's right.
And we see them often. So we should be having this conversation, and we can have it often. We should be having it so often that by the time they get to their adult doctor, they're perfectly
That's
they
right.
perfectly understand how they're supposed to eat, what they're supposed, but because we don't do it enough, and again, that's why I take the onus. We don't do it enough, but we also don't learn it enough. I had to go outside of my medical education to learn about nutrition, real nutrition.
Yes.
What I learned in medical school was about vitamin deficiencies. No one
Mm.
gets no
Yeah.
one gets rickets. This stuff happens in third world countries. In some, I'm not going to say it does happen in some places
Right.
in
Right.
urban cities where we're not feeding correctly, but for the most part, a lot of our things are fortified, and a lot of our so these things are fortified. So the stuff that we were learning about nutrition was just how to identify a vitamin deficiency or certain deficiencies. But it wasn't the basics about proteins, carbohydrates, fats,
Mm.
how to eat, what makes you overweight, and I say all that to say that's why it was evident in seeing the actual professionals who were overweight and out of shape because we couldn't even
Yeah.
apply it to ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna jump in here too. I got a freestyle with Dr. Yolanda. You come here, hey, jump in
Look,
there.
I would bet. I'm just gonna put your cash app in the comment section so they can pass it.
What? I'm telling you. So the last time we were on the show together, we were on this thing for another hour when the show ended.
Yeah, we were
talking for real, seriously. But one of the things I do want to jump back into the habits part too,
Yeah.
because I want to give the flip side of addiction.
right.
The flip side of the addiction is actually a habit that was simply formed. I want to emphasize this because this is actually where you can win. And this is actually where the solution can be set. So I'll give you the perfect example. Think about when you go to the movie theater. This is my advice, so it's a really good example. Think about when you go to the movie theater. What do you think about? You think about popcorn.
Mm-hmm.
You don't think about popcorn all the time because the popcorn is good, but it's been ingrained with us that when we go to the movie theater, we get popcorn and we watch the movie. Right. And there was actually an interesting study done to illustrate this, whereas the individuals were giving stale popcorn. They were given stale popcorn at the movie theater. And then they said, they still got the stale popcorn. They still ate the stale popcorn and did not complain. Because that habit was so strong that they realized the habit of eating popcorn was stronger than the habit of eating good popcorn. They didn't care. It was just the movie theater had actually triggered a habit of eating popcorn. Now you got to think about this when it comes to unhealthy eating. Why do we continue to go to McDonald's when the ice cream machine is always broken?
Man, what's that about?
And when the drinks, they ran out of your favorite. Why do you continue to go? Is McDonald's is not, I haven't gone to McDonald's in over 25 years. But I do know that McDonald's, was more than just the addiction to the poor food, which we know, but it's also the habit of we go to McDonald's and get the Happy Meal and get the toy that was ingrained within us, not the food, the toy. And then the little toy that we get in the Happy Meal, that was for me growing up. Yeah. And so basically, if we continue to build on this habit, the parents are like, we're going to McDonald's and getting our kids the Happy Meal with the little toy. And now the kids take that habit to their kids. and that habit just continues to go. As a healthy living coach, what I help people do is replace. You're going to always have that trigger. Make the kids happy, get them something to eat, smile, like the happy face, happy meal smile, right? What can we do to put in between? What habit can we replace that habit with that gets the same reaction, the same response? And that's how we learn to eat healthy. And so this is one of the reasons why that saladlady.com and that salad lady is so popular. Because what I do is take very common situations and scenarios when it comes to food, and I basically teach people how to replace that. We all know that most people think about salads and it usually goes heavy on the dressing, heavy on everything but the stuff that you actually should be eating.
That's all right.
What we emphasize is how to learn about your layers, how to eat mindfully, how to really appreciate what all these different layers do to the body. And instead of focusing on the layers that you can't eat, or the layers that, if you read the average article, why salads are bad, there's so much dressing. Well, let's not focus on the bad. Let's talk about how to make your own dressing. Let's talk about the many ways that you can make your own dressing, add your layers and portions that make sense. Now, let's take this approach and also apply it to eating in general. What we say is every bowl or plate of food is an opportunity to build more layers of wellness. So if you had, it's different when you present it, say, eat 5 to 6 servings of vegetables a day, eat this or eat this or eat this. A lot of people don't have the bandwidth for all the rules.
Absolutely.
But they can look at a visual and say, you know, okay, when I think about eating, I think about a layer. You want to add a layer of colors. So if you just start simply by telling people to add a layer of colors, you got them to eat 5 servings of vegetables.
Right.
Because if you say red, yellow, green, and purple or blue or white or whatever has to be in your diet, just eat those. Without even saying you should eat this way, you just put 5 servings of vegetables in their bodies. This works very well with the kids. And you just simply take out all the rules and just emphasize color and start there, baby steps. Because what we want to do with these habits is we want to make them small changes. We want to make them doable, and we want to make them sustainable, or it's not going to last. It's not enough to say, do this. You have to tell people and explain to people why it should be done, show them how to do it in their own way, and watch the magic happen.
Yep. But it also breaks it also breaks addictions. I mean, it just does, right? So that's
a natural occurrence.
The point I'm making is the things that you sometimes are addicted to are because you're habitually eating this or eating that.
Right.
Well, when you stop, you actually, it's like a detox. You don't tell someone to detox, but if I tell you to, let's replace this with this, people are going to actually turn that habit and addiction into this now. It just is. I mean, some people just have what we call addictive behaviors, and they're not bad. Yeah. If you are someone who's a karate enthusiast, you still have an addictive behavior. It's just
that's right.
You happen to have a good.
Yes, I had a running addiction. It was bad.
But what happens is what you're maybe addicted to is the euphoria that comes from the sugar. But I can now replace it with a euphoria that also comes from berries. There's lots of things, right? All the things that sometimes the satisfaction, people think I'm crazy. I could probably be your biggest, I love salad. I love it. Like it's like kind of a weird, and I'm that person who I finish a salad and I'm dancing, and they're like, "What is wrong with you?" But that is my addiction. I love the crunchy. I love the sweet. I love the different colors. I do, and that's how I feel about. So I'm dancing about salad the way some people dance about a donut. That's And so once I get you to see why, and I think it's because I know what's in it. I know it's good for me. I know
it's a mindful thing.
Yes, it's like the energy. Yes. So a lot of it is mindfulness. That's actually one of the parts that I was going to talk about. Mindfulness itself is it's a part of what I was talking about with ancient civilizations. Mindfulness is not something that we've incorporated or until recently.
Right.
Into a lot of areas of American culture, right? Of what we need to understand. So how we eat, and that's why I say there's 3 parts to eating. You just think it's what you eat. It isn't. It's how you eat, what you eat, and when you eat. All of that actually matters. And that's why it's a mind. And when I say how, that's kind of the how much. You don't
Mhm.
necessarily need to eat all of that. You know, I'm around people all the time and I'm pushing plates away. And they're looking at me and like, you're full. Like, let me have this conversation with you. 10 minutes later, I'm like, so if you want the plate, you can have it. Well, no, I'm done. I knew you were done. And these are people I know that are in my presence, that are like sitting next to me, that I've had this conversation with before, but because they're not mindfully eating, they'll continue to eat. They'll continue. So I tell people, as a parent, as a pediatrician, I tell people, stop putting the food on the table. Actually
Make a plate.
Plate up
Yes.
in the kitchen, put it on the table, have a meal as a family. Half of the time, people continue to put food on their plate because it just happens to be sitting there on the table. This is why Thanksgiving is so dangerous. Put everything out there on the table, and it looks really good. But they now
look at the habit of Thanksgiving. It just makes people misbehave for no reason. Like it's there, and I'm gonna keep eating. I'm not hungry. I don't even. Food is doing absolutely nothing for my body. Most of it, you know. You might get some protein. That's usually what you're getting, and some cheap energy. But you know, it's just one of those things. She is totally, you know, hitting it dead on. Is much as it as I guess as fluffy as it may sound, take the opportunity to smell your food, you know, the way you eat it. One of the things I do, it cracks my husband up, but I get food and that's part of the process.
It is.
Appreciate the food, just like you do with wine. You know, you shake the wine, you smell it, and it gets you ready. There's a process. If we enjoy eating and really appreciate what foods do to the body, I always tell people during speaking engagements, you know, before you even think about eating something, just think to yourself, really give a quick second and say, what is this doing to my body? Is it good? Is it making me feel like, why am I eating this? And if you just do that every once in a while, I've had people and clients say, just you telling me that and me thinking about that, I'm not going to say I changed everything, but I have changed some things. Because what it makes people do is really think about it.
But what you just said is so good, because I'm going to tell you what people say to me. And I know you've heard this before. People who I've had these conversations, clients and folks, will honestly say, I hear you in my head. When I'm about to do something, I hear it all the time, because it's when they've heard it, it's from you or from me. So people literally will say, they'll go to reach for something and they hear me say, is there protein in that? Is there this and that? And they'll call me and go, I love and hate you at the same time, because I'll go to do something and I constantly hear your voice in my head.
From a counseling standpoint, that's an area that you want. Like, so when I was counseling, that was one of the things that they taught us. And they said, when your client has you in their head, that's the time to start cutting them off of counseling, right? That's the time to start putting them off, because now they can hear you and you're not even around. And so one of the things, and the other guest we were supposed to have today was Dr. Monique Mann. Y'all may know her from our show Veganish that we do on Thursday nights here of blackdoctor.org. And so one of the things we did on this most recent show was talk about retraining our taste buds, right? And so if we start to cut out some of that salt intake, right? We start to cut out some of those, that added sugars, right? To our foods over time, we're going to retrain how food tastes. And so that's what you were talking about.
That's right.
Earlier, Dr. Yolanda, we said, start kids on vegetables, because now you're training their mouth. Okay, this is sweet. Even a vegetable, a bell pepper is sweet. It's there you go. It's a sweet, because it's actually a fruit, but that's a whole other conversation. But a bell pepper is sweet, but it's not sweet if you've been sucking down Snicker bars, right?
Exactly. It's not sweet enough. It's like salt. You put too much salt in something, you have salt in your body already. It's the reason that I can sit next to someone, we can have the same food, and I say, oh, it's too salty. It's not enough. And it's because it's already built up in their bodies. And so we have to. That's the whole detoxing, retraining, and understanding that you'll detect the sweetness. It's a carbohydrate. All
Yes.
vegetables have some sweetness.
They
Cabbage,
do.
you steam it, you actually taste the sweetness. If you're
Amen.
not someone who's so full of sugar,
But
add
it goes with that habit. It
Yep.
goes
Yes.
with that habit too,
Yep.
because so I remember, you know, I went to I went there. I went to Roscoe's Chicken and Waffles when I was in
Yeah,
LA
I went
because
there.
That was
I had
delicious.
never been there. I had never been there,
haven't
and I hadn't
been.
even eaten chicken and waffles. I'm not even a fan, but when like
I
it was
hadn't.
back when Obama went there and stuff, and
Yeah.
I was like, oh, I was walking through Hollywood, and I was like, oh, that's Roscoe's. I guess I should go in there. So I went in there, and I was like, I need the smallest thing you have. Like, you know, I heard Obama got the 3 wings or something. Give me that. And as I'm sitting there, and first of all, I didn't even eat it. It was so rich. Back to what we're talking, it was so rich, I couldn't even eat it. But as I was there, I was looking at this woman. So no kidding, they had a half a chicken with like the waffles. Now this is a girl; she's no more than 7, 8 years old, and her mother. And the food came out, and I watched her. I'm bad. I do that. I people watch when I'm by myself. And she put gravy all over it, and then she took the salt shaker and started shaking salt on it. This
That's
little
a
girl. She didn't even taste it.
Nope.
She didn't even taste the food first. She
Yeah.
just literally went, got the salt shaker started, and the habit of people just feeling like the salt shaker is there. I'm going to go ahead and shake this salt up in it. Oh, you know, the sugar is there. I'm going to go ahead and put this all in it. People think I am insane when I tell them I drink black coffee, you know, because when you actually don't eat a lot of sugar, black coffee is very savory. But it's really about your actual habits and how you're training your body. And as Dr. Yolanda said, and as you alluded to, Alice, just really changing the way your body thinks something should taste or what it should be. Whenever my son went out, because I make my own salad dressings, as I said, my son went out with friends' parents, and they used a salad dressing that was like it was a party, so they used the salad dressing in a bottle, and he's like, I don't want that. He said it tasted like poison. And I mean, the words he used, my 14-year-old son, he said it tasted like poison because he has not really had a bottled salad dressing. So if you think about that, just how, and I'm not going to say he has the best habits in the world, and his friends have snuck some of those hot Takis. That's why I laugh so hard, because someone introduced him to those things. But I will say, when it comes to, you know, being sensitive to a lot of salt, sensitive to a lot of sugar, he has that sensitivity, or at least that awareness. And that's really all about the habits you form, whether or not you're overly seasoning your food. That's a big problem in our community. Just that over and seasoning with what you season with. Like, you can season to death with herbs and spices, and its food tastes excellent. But we immediately go towards seasoned salt. And the funny thing is, you even look at, sometimes in social media, you see people when they don't have a white person cooking, and they'll put a little something on something. They'll be like, "Where's the seasoned salt?" It'll be all the black people. I can taste it. It takes no season. Where's the seasoned salt? Where's the salt? And I'm like, we are so conditioned to think that's right.
Right.
And that's the only thing.
Lowry's owes us some reparations.
They do.
Yes. Why are you talking?
So
and it has to be Lowry's. That's the question. We
Oh,
are
yeah.
so conditioned that we like, oh, that's not Lowry's. That's that Members Mark stuff. You can taste it there.
You gotta have that Lowry.
So that's funny that you say that, though, because when we were talking about things that you can do, and I'm just going to now kind of rattle them off because we're getting at the end. But I had actually had written down the 10 spices that I always tell people to get familiar with, right? And I usually give them like all the parts and stuff and why, but I'm just going to name them. I'm going to name 10 because I think that what you just said is exactly the issue. If you start to learn how to cook with something that has flavor, it actually makes it savory or even sweetens it up in ways like cinnamon. I start with cinnamon all the time. Cinnamon is this thing that anything that is supposed to be sweet, I put cinnamon on and it makes it sweeter. And what people don't know is it has such good properties. It helps make you more sensitive to insulin. It lowers your blood sugar. It has these great properties, but I'm just going to say cinnamon. Cayenne pepper. Cayenne pepper.
Oh, yes, I love
metabolism, right? It has anti-inflammatory and antioxidant, properties. Cloves.
And it's delicious.
It's very good. It's very good.
Yes.
And
Cloves, I love it.
Cloves, people don't know. It has this anti-inflammatory. This is why I say food is medicine. It actually has very good medicinal properties. A lot of people don't know that cilantro and coriander are actually one of the same. The coriander are the seeds to cilantro. And this is exactly
you didn't know that, yeah.
And it's a digestive aid, but it's so good. Like you get a good fresh salsa and you put some cilantro in it, you have no idea. It changes.
I know about cilantro is one of my top. That's one of my top herbs.
Yeah,
right.
And basil. I've been loving basil lately.
Basil's
basil. Yeah,
basil. You can't say nothing no to basil. Garlic, obviously, it's one of the. My house. You walk in my house, you don't know what I'm actually cooking because I start everything with olive oil, garlic, and most likely some onion. And then they're like, what do you make it? Because it all smells the same until I start putting other stuff in it. Ginger is really good. Ginger has good anti-inflammatory, antioxidant properties.
Garlic is good for your blood pressure too, just for folks.
And blood pressure.
Yes.
Garlic is good for
and garlic.
Garlic, ginger, turmeric. A lot of people just don't know it, but you can incorporate turmeric into things. I mean, half the time I'll make a soup and it looks just really, really orange. And they're like, what's in this? Always has turmeric. I put turmeric in so many of my soups and stews because it has.
And that's the stuff that's controllable. I mean, it doesn't take anything to incorporate the seasonings and spices. Nothing at all. And they're cheap.
And I'm going to add mustard. Mustard.
Ground mustard. That's a good one.
So many people.
I got all that.
So many people add ketchup and things. That's really just sugar, and it's actually good for you. But mustard is actually, it does have good.
Or you can make your own ketchup. You can make your own ketchup.
Yeah, there you go. But let's make sure that they understand about ketchup is it doesn't need to have that sugar, that sugary base. The problem is the habit of ketchup makes people think it needs to be sweet. So now they have to learn how to make their own sugar.
And French fries and ketchup are that's a bad combination. You got the salt on the French fries because you got to get the salt on the fries, and then you eat that sweet ketchup, and it's a great contrast in your mouth. You got the sweet and the salty, and it's so addictive because
I want to say nutmeg. I can't say. I got to say nutmeg real quick. Nutmeg.
Nutmeg.
Absolutely.
It actually has antidepressant qualities. People don't know this. There's a euphoric. There's a euphoria that you can get from just nutmeg. And
why do you think people so happy on Thanksgiving?
If you open listen, and here's another good thing about nutmeg. When you open a nutmeg and you see it almost looks like a brain. It's weird, right? It has those little ridges. It's good for Alzheimer's and dementia as well. So I'm telling you, there's so much people don't know. And the last one is sage. Please just start looking at different herbs. Don't grab the salt and the pepper first. Don't grab the Lowry's. I need people to understand. Everybody goes against that spice rack, and then they just sit it in the kitchen. They don't even touch it. They don't even know.
Thing is dusty. Most people have dusty spice racks.
Exactly.
You know what? Even I'm going to tell you, Alice. I'm sure you've been to the Cab Fresh Market.
Yeah, I love it.
So this is the most wonderful thing in the world because it is at that market that I see people really explore spices and seasons. They got a whole wall just full of this stuff, and they have it fresh. And a big thing that I want to add is it is that educational component. That's really a lot of what we do at That Salad Lady. It's about that educational component. It's not that people don't want to do right or do better. A lot of times it's that people don't know, and by giving them those little nuggets of wisdom, Dr. Yolanda just made somebody go and try at least 5 of those that probably wouldn't have tried them before. Just giving people those little nuggets of wisdom to tell them what little changes can actually do. And here's the one thing you didn't mention: the appetite suppressing effects of like 7 of those. Because 7 of those have a powerful appetite suppressing.
They do. I didn't get to it.
Shaking, just by shaking it on there, it can actually influence how much of a food you eat. So if you think about that, how much are we eating just because we're adding these additives that are highly addictive? As Dr. Yolanda, salt is addictive, very addictive. Sugar is addictive. We know that. But we
are very sensitive to it as Black people. as
Yes,
Black people, we're very
it's the relationship between everything that we have to focus on. All these things interact. This is one of the reasons why, and I'll say this last because I know we're running out of time. This is one of the reasons I tell people that food is better than supplements. Try the food first because these interactions don't occur when you supplement. You know, when you take a food and mix it with something else, it's not just eating that food. You can't just go and take a supplement of turmeric. No, you got to put it on something, and it can bring out the best in that something, and then that something fills you up, and that something helps too, and it all helps as a collective versus just taking a supplement.
I'm getting hungry. I'm
I
getting
know,
hungry.
but I'm going to end also with what something that you said, Dr. Nina, was that you actually take your food and you smell it. That relationship changes when you're using these herbs and these spices. It actually
absolutely
does. It encourages you. It actually incites. It what's the word? Excites you when you actually smell your food. I have fun tasting stuff and going, ooh, I think there's coriander in this. I think I'll just they're just so fun because it's a playful thing on your tongue to try to figure out, is that nutmeg that I taste? Is that wait a minute.
Right.
I think that smelling and really tasting your food is enhanced when you do use these herbs and these spices, and you understand that they actually have good properties. And I didn't say, and they're going to stop you from overeating because they have appetite suppressing quality. So,
we didn't even talk about portion size. We could definitely get onto this, but I want to say this as we're wrapping up here, is that to find Dr. Nina, if you want to get more from Dr. Nina, you go to That Salad Lady at thatsaladlady.com. Find her on social media at That Salad Lady. She's on TikTok. She's on Instagram. She's on all of the social media sites. Please follow her. Get more life-saving information about how you can change those bad habits, right? And there's a whole book about called Atomic Habits that we could talk about, and how we change our habits and not our goals. We change our habits, our goals will follow. So that's a whole big thing. Dr. Yolanda, you can always find Dr. Yolanda on first Friday of every month here on blackdoctor.org with Mind, Body, and Stress right here. So we're going to be here on this Friday, May 6th. We're going to have a great show on Women's History Month and trauma. We're going to talk about mental health and all of that here. Mind, Body, and Stress here with Dr. Yolanda. Please check them both out. This has been a wonderful, wonderful. Go try one of those herbs. She gave you 10.
Just one. At least
one. Just try one. Try one of those herbs this weekend. Start it this weekend.
Not on a pecan pie or pumpkin
pie. Replace some cinnamon. I started sprinkling cinnamon on everything. Turmeric, fresh herbs, that fresh basil, that smelling fresh basil. Oh my goodness. It excites.
I put cinnamon in my coffee. I love it.
It excites the tongue, right? I'm telling you. All of that, and you can make all of these things into a tea. Some of those herbs you can make into a tea. You can do rosemary. I love thyme. All of those things. Please go try it. Great program. Thank you both so much for being here and really giving some life-saving information about. So we're trying to improve that lifespan, that health span. We're trying to improve that health span by eating healthy so you can prolong your life. So thank you. We got one more panel. Next up, it's probably already kicking off right now. Next panel is about overcoming infertility. So if you're for women, or if you're a man, if you're in a couple and you're having some problems with fertility, we've got a specialist going to come on to help you overcome infertility. So make sure you check that out here as part of our Minority Health Summit. So with that, signing off. We'll see y'all next time.